Hello everyone and welcome to another young adult book talk at the Massachusetts Regional Library. I'm Miss Stephanie, one of the librarians in the Youth Services Department, and today I have some books related to dystopia. And dystopia is the opposite of what is called utopia, and that is a perfect society. And dystopia is there's always something wrong, like there's an oppressive government, there's plagues, there's vicious beast aliens, whatever. And on the surface, sometimes things appear great, but underneath there's always some tension, some conflict, some oppression. And it's just like they're very interesting and they're almost always set in the future. And it's just a very interesting way of looking about how we handle things and how things might evolve in the future. And there's a lot of great dystopias out there. Like, I decided to pick some that were kind of off the beaten path. I mean, like The Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, they're all great series, but I chose a few that aren't quite as well known and that may have been overlooked, and I hope that you will enjoy them as much as I have. The first one I'm going to talk about is called The Giver, and this is a Newbery Medal winner, and it describes a futuristic society in which there is no pain, suffering, everyone is the same. They get the same clothing, the same food, there's no uncertainty because everything is planned out for them, where they live, their jobs, even their spouse and their children are assigned to them as well. And it's like carefully controlled to maximize happiness. But what is the cost of this? Well, the result is that, there's nothing really different, everything is very predictable, and you kind of experience life at an even keel, but there's no downs, but there's no really ups too. And this story follows a 12-year-old boy named Jonas, and that is the age in this society where they get assigned their jobs. And he is not assigned, though. He is selected to be the next receiver of memory. And what that does is it keeps all the memories of the past, and they use those memories to to give wisdom so that others don't have to bear the burden of the pain and suffering. And the person who's giving Jonas these memories is called the Giver, which is hence the title of the book. And Jonas becomes more aware of the lack of depth in his life as he gets more memories of the past. Like he sees colors for the first time, he hears music, and this new awareness changes his life forever. And it forces him to make drastic decisions in order to save an innocent life. And this is actually the first dystopia I've ever read, and I've read it many times over the years, and I've always got something new from it. And Jonas is such a wonderful, sensitive character. He's like struggling with his new responsibilities, and I like how you can see how gradually it separates from the community, like his new knowledge. And it's like sad but kind of hopeful at the same time. And I like the narrow focus of selecting just one individual to see how they perceive the dystopia. And this is a very touching look on how human efforts to create a perfect community often cost them the things that make them human in the first place. And this is part of a quartet, and the sequels are Gathering Blue, Messenger, and Sun. And they're all set in this dystopia world. The next one I'm going to talk about is a Virginia Reader's Choice Reader for the 2021-22 year. This is called How We Became Wicked by Alexander Yates. And this is there's no, like in The Giver, you think, oh yes, things are okay at first, but like here, there's no illusions. There's a plague going on. It's carried by these mosquito-like ultraviolet beasts called the Singers, and what they do is this plague causes a person to become a cold-blooded murderer. And they're still intelligent, they can still move around and do things, but they just want to kill people. And it's not a cheerful book, but it follows, like, once again, this focuses on a narrow view of the dystopia world, and this is a small community in Maine, and the two main characters are Astrid and Natalie, and what they have in common is they were vexed, or they became immune to the plague by being exposed to it as babies. Most of the babies died when being exposed to it, but they didn't. And so it switches between their two respective. Astrid is living in a hidden community called Goldsport, while Natalie is living on a nearby island with a lighthouse with her mother and her grandfather who became wicked, but they didn't have the heart to kill him, so they locked him up in a lighthouse. And both of them see disturbances, like Natalie sees disturbances on the coast and Astrid sees disturbances on the island, and they both go investigate what's going on, and it leads to a potentially devastating conflict. And I think this is just like such a relevant book at this time because of the pandemic, and like the real world, events like this, like, bring out the best and the worst in people, and I thought Astrid and Natalie were very fascinating characters on how they handle their situation in very different but equally brave ways. The secondary characters are very good as well and add a lot to the story, and it's really heartbreaking to find out how Natalie's grandfather became wicked. The pacing is a bit slow, more so than the other two books, but it's like it just like adds on, just building up, lots of suspension until there's like a very well executed twist in the last 2/3 of the book. So, and it puts all the events of the earlier in the novel in a different perspective. So this is a great reread because once you find out what that twist is. So highly recommend this. And the last book I'm going to talk about is called Scythe by Neal Shusterman. And he sets his book in a future society where pain and suffering can be completely eliminated in a person's life. And the world is ruled by the Thunderhead, which is an all-powerful artificial intelligence with sympathetic emotions that evolved from the internet. People can even speak to it like it's another person. Death becomes more contained, and it's controlled by the hands of the Scythes, who are a few chosen individuals to control the population by gleaning, or they kill a select quota of people every year, mainly in a humane way. And as a result, people have extremely long lifespan, living almost hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. And Scythes can be noble, giving people an honorable death while comforting their loved ones, painless passing. But there's some ones that aren't so great. They enjoy death. They see it as a means of chaos, pain, and destruction. And our main characters, Citra and Ronan, they try to intervene in gleanings, and it ends up them being apprentices to become Scythes due to their compassion for the gleaning victims. And as they both of them learn about the noble art of death through Scythe Faraday, they end up becoming involved in a great conspiracy by the questionable Scythe Gouard, who manipulates the Council of Scythes to issue an edict. And this edict is very mysterious and could have some major implications in the world. And they also decide that after a year, Citra and Ronan are going to fight each other, and whoever wins, they have to kill the other one. So, no pressure, right? And naturally, they don't want this to happen, so they're figuring out how to stop this while also undermining the conspiracy in the sides. And I like this book a lot because it raised many questions. The writing is great, the characters are great. It did take me a little while to warm up to Citra and Ronan, especially Ronan, but their characters developed better as the book progressed. And Scythe Faraday and another Scythe Curry were very fascinating characters. They were full of personality, insight, and even humor as they're trying to guide their apprentices to a noble path and not fall from it. And I also like the world building. I think of all these is the best. It's very detailed. You see like all perspectives as this is a trilogy, and as it progresses, you see more of the world, and it's very interesting about how government's been eliminated because the Thunderhead is controlled. And I like how Shusherman lets you decide if the Thunderhead, the artificial intelligence, is good or evil, and the decisions it make, are they really good for humanity, or are they just good for the Thunderhead? So it's really great. There is some gore in here, not quite as much as How We Became Wicked, but as this is a book revolving around death, it's obviously got death in it. And there are two parts of the trilogy. This one is called Thunderhead, and this talks more in depth about the formation of Thunderhead. And The Toll is the last book in the trilogy, and this is very, very good. And it just, lots of questions, fascinating characters, fascinating world building, highly recommend it. So I hope that you enjoyed the book talk today and you found one or all series that you think you would be interested in reading. And I look forward to sharing more books with you soon. Have a good day. Bye.